Hello, everybody. This is the Gutencast. My name is Dr. Anthony Horvath. It's been a little while since I've had a podcast. Been lots of reasons for it, good reasons. Maybe sometime I'll talk about them. Tonight's actually a remake. We've got Dr. Anthony Rodrigues. Um, Not sure that's how he goes by in this context. We'll find out maybe later. We were going to do this again or do this about 3 weeks ago, and there was some really bad weather here. I mean, like so bad we went and sheltered in the basement in the most secure place that we could find. So, pretty intense tornado type weather. We were okay. About 5 miles away from us, though, a tornado did go through. So it was probably for the best that that particular night we canceled the podcast. But fortunately, we were able to reschedule for tonight, and we've got kind of a lot of ground to cover, but it should give you some background at least. So the book Gemini here, let me make the cover a little bit bigger so you can see it really well. This is one that we published through Guten Book Press. We published it, I think, maybe even last year about this time. I lose track of time just a little bit. And it's a great book. It's set in Britain, right around the second and third century. It's from the point of view of some Roman, we'll call them aristocrats, and brother sister pair. And at the time of this upheaval of variety of kinds, pagans are running about. Of course, the Romans were pagan in their own way, so like Celtic type pagans. And then the Christians were making inroads too. So our author Anthony Rodrigues did a really stand-up job, as he can be expected to as a historian and a linguist familiar with that era, to really paint the picture of what really our history was like. It's a forgotten part of our history, not very treated very extensively. Um, and of course, it is fiction, so it's historical fiction. But I really enjoyed it. I'm hoping, if God shows His favor on us, we will make a movie someday. I think it's that compelling, personally. So if you want to make a movie, read the book, or if you just want to, if all the other stuff that I just talked about interests you, read the book too. But it would make a great movie, in my opinion. So what should I say? Almost immediately after we started working on this, there was talk about an audiobook, and we ran into some obstacles with that. Not the least of which being that it seemed that we would need two audiobook narrators, and to get the two to a man and a woman, to get like just the accounting to work between two narrators like that using Audible seemed to be very difficult. And Anthony was already kind of up to speed on some of the AI options that were out there. And when we kind of ran out on the Audible angle, he turned to the AI stuff. So before I go any further, just so that you know, the link to the audiobook is in the description. It's on Spotify, actually, and maybe we'll talk about why it's on Spotify, not Audible, a little bit later. And I think we can probably say, I think I'm safe in saying this, that if you are so inclined to give a fair and honest review, he has free copies to give away. Hopefully, I haven't gotten ahead of him here. Well, I'm looking to see if he's nodding. He's smiling at least. Okay, so I think we're okay with that. So, obviously, if you want to buy it, that's much appreciated. I think you're gonna really like it. But we also are interested in getting some reviews too. So, without further ado, that's the backstory. Here's Dr. Anthony Rodrigues. How you doing there, Anthony?
I'm fine. It's really nice down here in Texas where I live. I live just outside Austin, and I, Fortunately outside Austin, because I wouldn't want to live inside
Yeah,
Austin.
right. Yeah, being about 3 hours away from Madison's in Wisconsin
Yeah,
is not quite far enough, but I know what you
that's
mean.
right.
So,
Well,
yeah. So
I live in a
it's
town that has the weird name of Dripping Springs, but it's a very nice
that's
place.
right. All right. So it's kind of funny because when we set up this reschedule event, the weather for both of us, like suddenly, like there was on both down in Texas and up here, there was this. I guess I'll talk about mine because it's like I know it better. But like last night, it showed this big radar streak of red and green headed right for me, and I thought, oh, it's gonna happen again. I can't believe it. But it seems to have missed us both.
Yeah, it seemed to. Well, we had some rain this morning, which I was glad about because in Texas you always want rain.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
it didn't last long, and now it's sunny out there. Well, it's a little cloudy, but still,
Hmm.
it's fine weather down here.
Yeah, well,
So I was happy.
we still don't have the sun. It's been raining all day.
Well, you live up north. That's not surprising. Come down to Texas if you want sun.
Yeah.
You'll get more sun than you want.
All right. Well, maybe we'll do that sometime. So I don't know how you want to begin. I kind of set you up a little bit, but how about we just start with this? Like, you have an interest in AI. I didn't mention this, but the cover itself was generated by AI. So why don't we start with like your passion for this cutting edge technology and creativity?
Well, it's a long story, but I'm an academic linguist. At least by profession, I was. I was a professor for many years in linguistics, teaching linguistics. Now, if you don't know the history of AI, that means nothing.
Hmm.
But the fact is that modern AI, depends on what are called large language models. And those have been produced over the years by a whole lot of people, obviously computer scientists, but also linguists. We have been heavily involved with computers, and because it sort of makes sense. I mean, the kind of person who goes into linguistics tends to like puzzles, and so computers come naturally to them. Then on top of it, while I was a professor, I ran an institute which was actually built upon computational research of various kinds,
Hmm.
especially in endangered languages. So all this is sort of old to me in the sense that I knew about it long before this became a big issue. But I have been amazed at how far these language models have become. They have come incredibly far. I mean, now the AI models have passed what's called the Turing test, I think. I don't know if you know that term, but
Yep.
Alan Turing years ago said that if you could talk to a computer and not know whether it was a human being, then that would pass the test for me. And that's what we now have. I mean, you can have long conversations with AIs. I do on occasion, in fact.
Well, so it is interesting. We've probably have done about 5 podcasts, especially if we include this one,
Uh-huh.
for sure 5, about AI in some format. We have one of my other recent authors had a vision for a children's book, and he
Hmm.
used AI to generate the images for it. He wrote the rest of it, but um, he's very optimistic about AI, and I'm kind of cynical about it myself. But I use it, but I guess I feel like I want to make sure I'm not used by it, if that makes sense. I want to make sure
Yeah.
I'm the one in charge of the technology, and I do feel or fear that
Hmm.
our society might slip away and just give itself over to this tech.
Well, I, I'm in the middle in this area. My own feeling is that AI is an amazingly useful tool, but it can be used too much. For example, I would never try to write a book using AI.
Hmm.
Somehow that would be wrong.
Yeah.
Um, so, but if you use AI to help you do things that you could not otherwise do, I'm fine with that. But it's causing big problems in academia because students are going straight to AI, and AI can do so many things better than most students can. It can
Yeah.
certainly write English better than most students can.
Right. Yeah.
So this is a dangerous technology in some ways because it could really cause societal problems.
So the
I
good
mean, if
news
people,
is,
yeah,
and this is tongue in cheek. The good news is that fortunately we've already made sure that we've mastered all the other society changing technologies that we're perfectly ready to move on to AI.
mhm.
That's a joke.
Yeah, right. We were perfectly ready. Well, um, I was astonished at how quickly AI matured. I
Yeah.
didn't expect it for another 5 or 10 years, but I was wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
So we can we'll talk about that a little bit more, but why don't you tell about the how you the process of moving to the I mean, there's some mechanics here of like first we tried the standard audiobook narrator, I thought.
right,
Um, so why don't we like go through the backstory of like, why that didn't work and why AI
sure,
became the best option.
sure, sure. Well, I should give you some background on myself. Um, as a young boy, a child, um, I became fascinated by Rome and especially Rome in Britain. And I read a whole lot of books by people who wrote about that period, both history and fiction. One of my favorite authors was a woman named Rosemary Sutcliffe. And if anyone is interested in books set in that period, they should read her because even though most of her books were written for children, they are eminently readable by adults. Now, this means that by the time I grew up, um, I had in my mind a kind of image of what a Roman book set in Britain should sound like. And I didn't write until fairly late. Um, I I devoted all my time getting a PhD and then getting a job in academia. And anyone who's done that process knows very well that's not easy to do. So it takes a lot of effort and work. And so I didn't start writing really until I retired. But when I did start writing, I was determined to write about that period, Roman Britain. And a period that interested me a lot was the early third century and late, sorry, sorry, the early fourth century and late third century, because in that period a whole lot of changes were going on. There was a lot of conflict. In fact, for about 30 years, everyone thought Rome would fall because there was
Hmm.
so much civil war. So anyway, I decided to write this book. And for some reason, I don't know why, but it just seemed like the book had to be written in two voices, one male, one female, because I wanted to also deal with the female experience as well as the male experience in this thing, because they were very different in Roman times. So I started writing the book. In the end, I wrote Gemini, which means twins in Latin. And it's about a pair of twins, a male and a female. And the book is told from both voices. So I wanted an audiobook because I think it would go down well. But at the same time, I felt like the book, because of my early experience, probably just had to be read in a British accent.
Mm-hmm.
So we have two problems here. One is you need two voices, and anyone who's dealt with this kind of stuff knows that can be very expensive. And it's not just a matter of having to pay 2 actors, you also have to make sure that the studio levels of the audio match one another, which is an awful lot of work. So there was that issue. And then there was the issue of not being able to find those people anyway, because I wanted them to speak according to their characters, which meant that they had to speak what I would call upper class British, modern British, to give that flavor. I mean, we know the kind of speech that Darth Vader uses.
Okay.
anyway, there's the background on the book, and
All right.
why I felt it so important that we should have British speakers.
Okay. So this might be a good moment here. Hopefully this works. Let's play is it Lycianus? Is that how you say his name?
Licinianus.
Oh boy, I've been saying it wrong in my head this whole time. Say it again for me.
Licinianus.
Licinianus.
Licinianus. Latin C was pronounced K.
Okay. All right. Does that name have any meaning?
Well, it has familial meaning. There was a tendency in Roman families to name children after their fathers by adding a suffix to the end. So if you had a father whose name was Licinius, you would name him Licinianus.
Okay.
Now, that can cause great confusion, I might add, because you have whole generations of these people with almost the same name, but not quite.
Huh. Okay. All right. So let's play a clip that you supplied from the audiobook, and this is Licinianus. Licinianus. Yeah. All right. I think I need more to drink, and it'll just flow right out. All right. Here we go. Hopefully this works.
Chapter 1, Licinianus, the Emperor. It surprises me that I once saw Flawilla as just my beloved aunt, happy, sweet, and kind. And so she was, a lovely, delightful woman, who took me in her arms and danced singing with me down the paved path to the river, whirling in and out of the flower beds that her mother so carefully tended. She loved us dearly, my twin sister, Seweriana, and me. I learned why when I got older. We were all that was left of her twin brother and his wife, and she had loved him as life itself. But I never understood it as a child, for children don't understand loss. It's unfathomable to them until they experience it themselves.
Okay. Yeah, so I did actually listen to that before I did this, so I'm even more embarrassed that I can't say it now. So
don't worry about it. That was another problem with the audiobook, because there are lots and lots of words in this thing that need a specific pronunciation. And I mean, I had a list of like 8 pages of just words that needed to be pronounced in a certain way.
I actually remember seeing a document, I think, that had that. Did you have to go through then the manuscript and like alter the actual spelling of the words until the spelling of the word created the sound that you wanted from the AI?
Well, yes and no, if you know. Well, let me explain this. We're sort of getting ahead of ourselves a little here, but that's okay. The AI I used, 11 Labs, is, I believe, the best AI for text-to-speech available. It's not too expensive either. You can produce an audiobook for a couple of $100, which is incredibly cheap considering how much they usually cost. Now, 11 Labs has 2 means of getting the AI to pronounce words correctly. One is by uploading an IPA file. Now, if you're not a linguist, you probably don't know what IPA is. It stands for International Phonetic Alphabet. And if you know IPA, then you can write down precisely what people are saying in every detail. Now, obviously, with my background, that was not a problem because I learned IPA in my first year of linguistics.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it would be difficult because it's a very complex set of characters you have to learn.
Yeah.
And so that's one way of doing it. They also offer another way of doing it where you respell everything. So you sort of act as if, how would an English person say this if they didn't know IPA but saw this word for the first time?
Right.
So I had to do both those things in order to make things work.
Okay. You had to use both. So even the
Yeah.
IPA thing didn't work for everything.
Well, there were the software was not perfect when I used it. It was getting some IPA things wrong.
Okay.
So even though I had the IPA uploaded and it was perfectly correct IPA, the AI was misinterpreting it.
Interesting.
This was one of the burdens that you have to deal with when you're dealing with software. It doesn't always get it right.
Right. Yeah. So the you said that we were getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. What if we should backtrack? Where should we backtrack to and start pick up the road again?
Well, I think we should backtrack to the point at which I decided to see if there was AI which could do the job for me.
Okay.
And this I was not at all sure about because I had not investigated text-to-speech AI much at that point. And I went through a number of different AIs and discovered that the one that was doing the best job was 11 Labs and was doing the best job for a number of reasons. First of all, the 11 Labs AI doesn't just produce mechanically speech from a text. Instead, what it does is it reads the text, tries to figure out what's being said and what kind of emotion should be used, and then tries to reproduce that.
Really?
Yeah. So if you say, John said laughingly, "I don't know," it will try to give you that phrase, "I don't know," in a laughing manner.
Interesting.
So, and it does a remarkably good job, I might point out. It's not like it does a bad job. It doesn't. It gets it right, I would say, probably most of the time, but doesn't get it right all the time. That was one issue. So I chose 11 Labs. The other reason why I chose them was because they offer you voices, many different voices. And what's more, not just voices of particular timbre, but also voices in different dialects of English. Even voices which have foreign accents, if you want to use those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are dozens of these things there. So all that was one of the reasons why I chose it, because I could actually go through and find an English voice, two English voices, in fact, one male, one female, who had the right accent and sounded the way I wanted them to sound.
Okay.
So there was that reason. But there's also the fact that there's a fairly steep learning curve you have to go through when you use any new piece of software, including AI. You have to figure out how it works, where it fails, and how to fix that. So there was a lot of work that I had to do in order to do that. Getting the text up there was very easy. 11 Labs has something called Studio. I'm not sure if they've renamed it now, but anyway, you simply upload a project which can be a Kindle book. And obviously I have a Kindle version of my book. and it produces the text, and then you can go through and get it to produce that whole book in audio, choosing the voices as you go. The only problem is, as I said, AI gets things right most of the time, but not all the time. That means you've got to go through every single paragraph, choose the voice, make it produce that paragraph, listen to it, correct the errors if there are any, and then go on paragraph by paragraph. It's a long process.
Wow. So I'm just gonna bring up the site here. So we're looking at, not that we'll do anything with it, but just a second here. There we go. Yeah. So.
And that particular legend, the most realistic voice AI platform, is, I believe, accurate.
Okay.
It is. I don't know of any better voice AI than they are.
How many did you try?
I tried about 4 or 5.
Okay.
I mean, I had to pay money because all of these platforms, of course, are not free. And they give you a bit of free time, but it's not good enough really to do anything and really check how it works. So you have to be prepared to pay maybe $100 just checking through these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's but it does a whole lot of things. It does things that are, frankly amazing. And it will dub things for you. It will even translate to some degree for you. It also has one feature that is absolutely wonderful. It's called voice actor. Suppose, for example, you have a particular sentence that needs a particular kind of intonation used. You send it through the AI and it produces it. The trouble is, it's not right. It's not how you want. So you take your microphone, you read into the microphone the way you want it expressed, and the AI will then mimic you. So you can get any kind of impression just by using voice actor, even if it doesn't get the expression correct the first time. Most of the time it does.
Yeah. So now you said that, you spent some money and it didn't cost you as much. I was looking at their plans here, and I don't really have any perspective on, how many credits it would take to, to do your book. So, is it asking too much to ask you how much it actually costs you to generate it?
If you want to do a whole book, and my book is 127,000 words long, which is not a hugely long book, but it's not a short one either. I used the top plan, $99.
Okay.
And I did it in roughly 2 months. So it cost me approximately $200 plus maybe $100 for fiddling around with other stuff as well. So in all, this book probably cost me $300 to make.
Okay. And how many credits did you have left over? Do you know?
I don't know. I still have an account, but I only have a $5 account now. I don't need the 99 one anymore.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I have looked at these people before, because I have I kind of think it would be nice, like when I'm doing like commercials, for lack of a better word, instead, like I do have a team at Gutenberg Press. Granted, not a very large team, but I have a team, and one of them is a graphic designer, and he does a really good job of producing the videos when I want them. Like we started the whole podcast with the teaser video. He did all of that. But whenever I have to contribute audio, then I actually have to sit down, record it, edit it, and then send it to him. And I just thought, man, it would just be so much easier if I could just type it out real quick once and just send it up to an AI. But I have not actually been happy with any of the AI representations of my own voice.
Have you
So-
tried 11 Labs yet?
9 months ago. 9 months ago, I would have tried it.
Well, it's improving every day, and it
Chapter
now
1,
does a whole lot of
Licinianus.
things. Like, for example, dubbing.
The
Whoops,
Sorry, I shut him up.
that's okay. And again, 11 Labs does more than just produce books in AI for you. It will also do a whole lot of things, but you're going to have to spend some time fiddling with it to see what it can do.
Yeah.
Because I know that I know some people who produce ads all the time with 11 Labs, and they're very happy with them. I've seen them. You cannot tell them from a voice actor. At least I can't, anyway.
Yeah.
So, but like every bit of software, it requires you fiddling around, figuring out what works, how it does this, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But this is what I said, what I meant when I said that you have to put some effort into it, because I could probably have produced the book in a month if I'd wanted to. But I had to spend so much time figuring out how things worked that it took me 2 months. And that's sort of what you have to do, because these AIs are interesting. They do a whole lot of things perfectly correctly, but they misinterpret things also. And I don't know if you ever heard this phrase, AI hallucinations.
Yep.
Well, AIs do produce hallucinations. That is, you'll give them a question and they will answer you, and they'll produce what looks like a perfectly valid citation, but it's bullshit. It just came out of the air.
Right.
So everything an AI does, you have to check.
Yeah.
And they also produce hallucinations in the voice area. Every so often it will go off the rails and do something really crazy, and you've got to go back and correct it. This is why you've got to listen to every single word it produces. You can't just feed the text in and then hope for the best.
That's almost heartbreaking to hear that. I mean, because it's almost like we're back to work now.
Well, it is work. I mean, there's no question. On the other hand, consider how long would it have taken to produce a 127,000 word book using voice actors, and how much would that cost?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you know better than I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you'd be interested to know, and only you are going to appreciate this, but the cat that caused me so much consternation at the beginning of this is now perched just over my shoulder over here, and I'm giving her the evil eye, and she doesn't seem to care.
Well,
yeah,
give in some Prozac.
Yeah, right. So how about we play the female, Severiana, I believe. I think I got
That's
that.
right, Severiana, yeah.
Okay, so let's play her.
Chapter 2. Severiana, Invasion. When I think about my life, sometimes I find myself laughing at how little I understood. I didn't know all I believed I did about my family's gift, really, and so I was inventing something for myself. I just knew that my beloved aunt had shown such power after Carausius's murder, and I saw no reason why I too should not have it, for I was a twin, as she was, and to twins in my family, great gifts are given. I didn't know the limits of that gift. I was going to learn all about it, though, for what happened when I was 12 years old was momentous. After 3 years of rule by the usurper Electus, Constantius invaded in the spring.
So I think that, like, if I'm really listening attentively, that I can tell that that's AI. But
Well,
it's also like if I didn't know, I think I could also just think that that is just somebody who is being very careful to enunciate. I mean, it's pretty good. I think the point.
Well, I have tested both those voices on people who didn't know it was AI. Not one of them said it was.
Interesting. Yeah.
And what that woman was producing, I mean, I was very happy with that particular section because the AI is actually reading the text, interpreting it, and producing the correct emotions for an educated woman, an educated British woman. And I know this dialect well, I might point out, because I sort of grew up with it. And that is an educated British woman, and I do not think I could have told that was AI if I didn't know it.
Right. So we should give some a little bit of background. We know that you're a linguist.
Yeah.
You are actually from England, correct?
No,
No?
I grew up in South Africa,
Ah, okay.
but I grew up with a lot of English people around
Okay.
me.
But
of
you
all
were
different
in
accents.
England, weren't you? You were in England for a time, right?
Yes, for a time I was in England, but that was
Okay.
a long time ago.
Okay. And then I know that you were also a professor in the state of Michigan. So,
That's
well, you've
correct.
had a long life. You've had many experiences. We can't pin you down to one region. So, but in my mind, you were more UK than South African. But I mean, maybe this is a little personal, but I mean,
Mhm.
you probably. My guess is right now you consider yourself fully American. Does that seem right?
I do. I've been an American citizen since 1992,
Okay, then that's plenty of
so
years.
that's a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah,
And I see myself as totally an American now, even though my accent says I'm not.
okay,
But I've never experienced anything from any American that ever implied I wasn't an American.
yeah,
So I feel very welcomed here, and I'm very much a patriot, I suppose you'd call that. You use that word.
sure,
Um, because I really believe in the values of this country, and I really believe in the things it tries to do. I mean, I think this is the country on earth that has tried to do the best it can, and that's a rare thing because many countries are very cynical.
yeah. Well, I have a feeling that we might end up coming back to this topic
Uh-huh.
near the end. All right, but that was actually new to me. I had some sense of the background, but 1992. That's that is the year I graduated from high school. So you have been an American for a very
Not
long
older than
time.
just a few years older than you.
Yeah, yeah. So were you the process of creating this audiobook, did you
Mhm.
have to, you said you've got to actually go through it. Did you like upload like a page at a time and go
No,
through it, or like was it like a paragraph at a time? Oops.
no. I uploaded the entire Kindle book in one go.
Okay.
11 Labs separates it out into chapters,
Okay.
and it also separates it out into paragraphs. And you can assign a voice to anything, to any of those things. You can also take a portion of a paragraph and assign a voice to that. As a
Right.
result, I thought, well, since I have access to hundreds of voices, I'll just have a different person speak every time someone new comes on the scene. So it's more than just two
Oh,
voices in the book.
I
There
did
are
not know
probably
that.
there are probably 20 or 30 voices in the book.
Oh, wow, you really got ambitious on this.
I did. I did.
Okay. So you I think the elephant in the room, as it were, is um as far as audiobooks go, I mean the Audible
Mhm.
is the place for that. But when you started this, Audible would not take your book, but I think there was other problems too. So you ended up on Spotify. Can you
Yeah,
share more about that part of the journey?
sure. Audible still to this day will not take books produced by AI. Now, it has its own little AI thing through Amazon, but I've listened to books produced by that particular piece of AI, and it's not very good. It sounds mechanical. You can hear it's AI.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't use it anyway. But books produced by anyone else's AI, except Amazon's, they will not take.
Hmm.
This, I believe, is understandable but foolish on their part. I mean, they're trying to keep money for Amazon, I'm sure,
Right.
but it's also the fact that um, if you, unless you publish through a big publisher, it's a rare person who can afford to hire actual human voice actors
Yeah.
because they can be unbelievably expensive. And for good ones, they are very expensive. I mean, so you're not just talking about a few $100s. You're talking about many thousands of dollars to produce a good AI book. Sorry,
Yeah.
good Audible book rather.
Right.
So there's that thing. But I also believe it's a waste of time. It's a kind of Luddite thing to think that you can somehow stop this technology. For some people, they have no choice. For many people, they have no choice. Independent publishing is becoming more and more common nowadays. And I think it's probably going to ultimately take over because a whole lot of people can do it. And getting published is incredibly difficult. The number of times that I have been rejected by agents, I mean, I could probably paper the walls in this office if I printed out all the rejections I got.
Mm-hmm.
Because for a whole lot of reasons. One of them is that there are styles in books, and if you publish a book that isn't in one of those fashionable styles, you stand no chance of getting an agent. The second thing is that agents, the book industry is now dominated by women. There's nothing wrong with that, but the fact is they tend to want to buy books that appeal to women, not to men.
Mm-hmm.
So you only have a few publishers who will deal with male-oriented books. Bain Books is probably the most well-known one. They publish books aimed at men, but most publishers publish most of their books by female authors aimed at women. And I'm happy to hear that because I think everyone should read books. I love books myself. But I would like things to be a little more open than they are.
Yeah.
So getting an agent is incredibly difficult. If you're a male, you have it. I mean, the odds are against you. I mean, I even know one person, in fact, who couldn't get an agent until he changed his name to a female one.
What?
And then all of a sudden he got an agent.
I hadn't thought about trying that.
I won't mention who that person is, but he's
Yeah.
now been published. But anyway, this means that since you can't use AI and since you can't get access to the big publishers, or at least not easily, you are often driven to have to independently publish or publish with smaller publishers who often cannot afford to spend thousands of dollars putting an Audible book together.
Yeah.
This means you have no choice, really. And my own feeling is that AI now is approaching a level where there's really not a lot of reason why you should use human voice actors because AI is getting that good. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
very happy with my books.
Yeah. No, it's excellent. I will still continue to, at least as my first go-to, use my buddy Joe Courtmont, who's
Of course.
got a
Of
great
course.
voice. But it is really undeniable that there are use cases, we'll say, where where you just can't find a person, or like it's not worth their time,
Mm-hmm.
which is another part of it, right? Like for the kinds of jobs you might want to do, it's like, they're gonna have to set aside 2 days, and that's not 2 days that they're willing to do. Or you can go to
Mm-hmm.
AI and have it done in 20 seconds. I mean, there's
Yeah.
kind of a no-brainer there. But we kind of wandered into you wandered into familiar territory for me. I started this publishing imprint. This is Good Book Press is probably my fifth imprint, actually. If
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I'm not going to do the math. I have some imprints. That's the point. But I also went through the whole agent, like what is the what was rigmarole. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just, you just get rejection after rejection, and they say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, your book is great, and then you're like not really convinced about the reasons for why they're not going to publish
No.
you. And
Well,
so
right.
finally in like 2007, I think, it's like, you know what, I can do this. you know
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's some technical know-how that needs to be mastered. I mastered it, and now I can publish. I can do it. So
Yeah.
um you know you know so I'm that small guy that you're talking about, and I
Yeah.
suppose you could say there's thousands like me, but I don't know if we're going to replace the big dogs quite yet. Not that it's not inevitable, but the what they do have right now is they have the big dogs. That is, they have they have
Money.
they have the ear of like the major newspapers and the major
Exactly.
media, and it's really hard to get the attention of those people unless you're, I won't even say the names of the big
Well,
publishers.
let me add this. Having spent a lot of time in academia, I knew a whole lot of people who have English degrees. Many of those ended up in the book publishing industry.
Hmm.
And here's the interesting part: many of them started in the book publishing industry as assistants to the agents. And they were the ones who actually read the manuscript coming in. The
Yeah.
agent usually didn't.
Yeah.
So when that poor author received the thing saying it's not my cup of tea or whatever it was actually this BA in English who was actually giving them the judgment.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and these people were told, I want to see books of this kind, and don't show me anything else because I haven't got time.
Right. Yeah.
This is why it's so hard to publish.
Yeah. So I bet I have about 35 authors now. Probably that I know of, at least 5 or 6 of them have played the agent game. You
Well, you
know,
can add one here.
well, I was including you, and the other ones may have too. I just don't know it, and it just, to me, it strikes me as almost tragic, because your book is excellent, right? I'll go ahead. We have an author named Sam Packin, Jesse's Seed.
Hmm.
I mean, it's excellent. So the fact that extremely well written books would not have seen the light of day if not for the fact that I said, well, yeah, let's publish that. I mean, it's well written. What else do I really want?
Hmm.
Yeah, okay. All right, yes. I want to make a movie. I already established that. Yeah, that would be great. Let's get gloriously rich. But the thought that troubles me is that there are excellent authors out there who will go to their deaths literally with their manuscripts in their desk drawer, who said to themselves, unless I can be traditionally published, I'm never going to publish, even though they could be the next Steinbeck, right? You know,
Right.
but no one will ever read it. No one will ever know.
I know. It's a sad thing. I mean, learning to write well is obviously a craft. I mean, the first attempt I made to write a book, it didn't work. I just didn't know how to plot things, but I learned the more I wrote, the better I became at it. And, you know, you have to go through that kind of apprenticeship. But the end result is there have got to be a whole scad of really good books out there that will never see the light of day because they just aren't the right kind of book for the agents who want books.
Right. Yeah. Well, I didn't expect this to be a go about on the agents, but I have a lot to say about that. Well, let's make an attempt to bring it back on target here. So that's quite all right. I have a third clip from you, and this is mixed voices, and so this is the male and the female voices together. But I guess I didn't realize that you had 30 voices. Are there going to be more than the two voices in this clip? Do you know?
I don't think so. I think it's just the two voices that I sent you. You didn't ask me. There are a number of major characters who have their own voice all the way through it, but I don't think I sent you any clips of those.
No, you did. Okay. All right. So let's just listen to this last clip I have of you here.
I stammered. I have little to say about my brother. He died bravely, and while I feel such grief at his loss, at least that is some compensation. I backed away after that murmured reply, and hoped desperately that I could get away from Constantinus to collect my thoughts. But a gesture stopped me.
What?
She said.
Why do you think he's dead? We just saw him an hour or two ago. He was with the troop that was sent to welcome us. He is a hero.
This felt like a nightmare to me. The cruelty of this denial almost made me lose my breath. I did not know why she was playing such a vicious trick on me. I struggled to stop myself rounding on her in a fury. Then I thought that perhaps there was a reasonable explanation. Perhaps she had mistaken another Licinianus for my brother. She turned to the guard beside her.
Bring the Tribune Caelius Windex Licinianus here at once.
That was the right name. I felt breathless. I could not believe this. Was there any truth in this madness? Then I heard his voice speaking from behind me.
Domina, you wanted me?
That is when I felt my legs give out, and I screamed so loudly that everyone turned to look. My brother caught me as I fell, and I knew it was him just from the feel of his hands. I was sobbing and trying to turn in his arms to kiss his beloved face. I thought you were dead, I said again and again. I thought you were dead. He hugged me tightly.
I almost was, but I had good doctors. Who told you I had died?
A centurion sent a letter. I think his name was Caluentius. He had tears in his eyes too.
Oh, gods. He's the stupidest officer I know. Trust him to have sent a letter before he knew for sure. I was very sick, very injured, and everyone thought I'd die, but I didn't.
We hugged each other as if we would die if we did not. I was trembling. You must come home with me. I need to have you near me to talk to you.
I'll have to ask the Dominus Constantius,
he said, looking at Constantius and Helena, who were laughing at our emotion. At that point I realized that I was entirely ignoring an Augustus and his concubine. I turned in terror to look at them, but Helena was laughing.
Of course,
said Helena.
You must let him go, my love. This is too great a thing to pass without lots and lots of talk.
Constantius smiled.
Go. You can come back tomorrow.
As we left, I saw Constantinus looking at me, his lip curled as if in contempt. I shuddered. I don't know what it is, I whispered to Licinianus. There is something that I just don't like about him.
You're not alone,
he said, in as quiet a voice as mine.
So that clip did a really good job of showcasing that emotion part that you were talking about before.
And you know what? I forgot I sent you that clip because it actually has 4 different voices in there.
Yeah. So there were a couple times in there where I thought, yeah, I would be able to tell that that's AI. But for the most part, and in certain parts, like there's no doubt that like indistinguishable. Like, I mean, it's spot on.
Yeah. And note the end where she's whispering. The
Yeah.
AI is also whispering.
Did you have to give it? Did you have to give it special instruction in that part to say, make sure that this phrase is whispered, or did it figure it out on its own?
Well, it figured it out sort of on its own. I didn't quite get it right the first time, but I used voice actor where I imitated what I wanted, and then it imitated me in that voice.
I see. Okay. All right. I interrupted you. You're going to say something else.
No, that's okay. That's it. That's all I was going to say. I just had forgotten that I had given you a clip which had 4 different voices in it.
All right. Yeah, it was yeah, I guess we should have put out a spoiler alert on that one.
Well, I have done a lot of testing on this book.
Mhm.
I've asked people who didn't know it was AI, and in fact, I asked one woman who hates the idea of AI and said, "What do you think of this book?" And she said, "Oh, I really enjoyed that book." She didn't realize it was AI because she wouldn't have listened to it if she'd known.
Yeah. So so you have so we published Gemini together. And it's actually the middle book, but the
Right.
first and the third book for sure hasn't been written.
Right.
So you've decided to take the George Lucas approach to making books, where you make like the middle book and the other books don't exist yet.
Well, I suppose that's true, though I hate to be likened to George Lucas, because I think his Star Wars stuff has become a disaster. But anyway, the reason why is that I wrote both these books before I even encountered you, so neither had been published when I met you, virtually.
Right.
And I was planning on publishing the first book first, but I thought, actually, I think the second book is a good book, and I'd like to get that out first.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it sort of happened by accident. And
Okay.
the third book is going to, well, I'm starting to work on that one.
So the first book is actually done, more or less, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it is done.
Yeah,
yes,
that's what I thought. Yeah. So what's your excuse again?
My excuse is that I was rewriting it until very recently because I wasn't satisfied with it.
All right. Okay. I feel like we can't let the George Lucas thing drop, because because we're both artists in our own way. Do I understand what you're saying? The original trilogy that we all grew up with was good, but they've made a mess of the rest. Is that kind of where you're at with it?
That's exactly what I feel. I mean, it's become far too woke, far too. Instead of the thing that the first Star Wars had, in my opinion, was that it brought up all the archetypes that all of us know so well from our culture. The archetypes which, when we encounter them, we have certain emotions as a result of that. The first Star Wars did that perfectly. But then, in an attempt to become modern, the later Star Wars started abandoning those things and putting in things that were really more a matter of ideology, modern ideology, than archetypal knowledge. And as a result, the Star Wars series deteriorated.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
So you kind of referenced the later ones, but there's really no excuse for what happened with episodes 1, 2, and 3. That was pre-woke, and they were still bad. I mean,
they were bad. Well, the only one that was really good, I believe, was the original one.
Yeah.
episode, what was it, 3? I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Well, I liked Empire. Empire was all right.
Well, it started to become a little predictable then. But anyway, The Empire Strikes Back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed all those things because I like science fiction. But I must admit, I don't watch Star Wars anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, ever since they started introducing Mary Sue's into the Star Wars all over the place,
Right.
I stopped watching.
Well, Jar Jar Binks ruined it for me. I don't even think I watched episode 3 after, even though I was told Jar Jar Binks, if I remember correctly, isn't even in it. Like, I still can't do it. Like, I was so offended.
No, it's just descended into absurdity, in my opinion. I mean, so many series, I think, don't know how to end things.
Right.
And Game of Thrones is another example. Wonderful series until the last season when they totally messed it up.
Yeah.
I almost used the F word there.
I noticed that. Yeah. Have some more bourbon. So, you mentioned the archetypes. I think that's pretty interesting. Like, what is your feeling? How do the archetypes play into your own book, Gemini?
Well, they play in here in a number of ways. First of all, there's the Jungian archetype of the journey, whereby you are going from one kind of person to another kind of person through events. Then there is the archetype of the animus versus the anima, and you'll see that a whole lot in the book. You have male and female opposed. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to have 2 voices in it, because I feel like the wholeness of human beings is that dichotomy of male versus female. And I wanted to bring that out into this. And then there is the archetype of someone who succeeds not because he necessarily has a wonderful talent, but because he is given a gift. So anyway, there's a whole lot of stuff like that in my book. And obviously in my book, the gods are real in that particular fictional world.
Yeah.
And Christianity also figures in it, because it was a terrible problem for pagans, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because the one interesting thing about paganism is that the kind of paganism the Romans had anyway was, you want to add another god, go right ahead, no problem. And the Christians were saying, no, there's just one.
Yeah.
And that meant that they were being rejected in a way that they did not understand. And so, Christianity was it's understandable why they started persecuting them, because they couldn't think of anything else to do, because these people were saying to them, what you believe doesn't exist.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, it was,
yeah, we lost you. Are you back?
Yeah, but anyway.
Nope. Your microphone's like on the floor or something. I still can't hear you very well.
I have 2 microphones.
Okay,
so
well,
that's why.
It's the other one that was picking up most things, I think.
Okay. So there we are. It's back on the...
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, so that's fascinating. So like, where do you think the archetypes come from? Like, are they the heritage of humanity? Like what's their source? What's their power?
Well, I'm a Jungian, basically. And I think Jung got it right. They are part of our natural psychology. We don't just learn them. They are embedded in us because we are human. So I believe they actually occur again and again and again and again. And in fact, if you look at a myriad cultures, lots of cultures, the same archetypes recur again and again and again.
Right.
This cannot be just by learning or from chance. It
Yeah.
has to come from something inside ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's my feeling on the issue. I mean, and this is one of the things that we have lost, I think, in modern times, because we have insisted, for example, being male or female is a matter of choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's nonsense. It
Yeah.
isn't a matter of choice. It's a matter of innate qualities in us.
Yeah.
So we are trying to reject what is most fundamental to our humanness, in
No,
my opinion.
I agree, but I guess what I was wondering though is like I understand like what you said about being Jungian and all, Carl Jung, right?
Right.
But where does it come from? Like what? Like my dog, the cat that I complained about, has no concept of archetypes, right?
No, because they're
But
not human.
Yeah. Well, so what's the difference? What
Well-
sets the humans apart from the animals?
Well, I don't know if I'm the appropriate person to answer that, but I can say this.
Okay.
I believe when we are born, we not only come into the world with a pre-made physiognomy, we also come in with a pre-made psychology. I think this is part of being born.
Yeah.
And so these things occur again and again. And there are some truly strange phenomena about this. For example, every culture I know of all over the world uses a particular symbol that is now much denigrated, the swastika.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's a sad thing that now it can't be used anymore in the way it was, because it was a symbol of good originally, a symbol
Yeah.
of what is best in life, not what's worst in life. And, if you go to Rome, for example, and look at mosaics, you'll find swastikas all over the place.
Yeah.
Because they used it. I mean, I actually have a description of a swastika in my book. The only thing is I didn't use the word swastika.
Yeah.
I just
interesting.
because I knew it would trigger bad things in people's minds. So I
Right.
used another term for it. So, but it's a sad thing
Yeah.
because it's an old symbol.
So
it's
I
even
have
down- Yeah.
I have on my shelf a very old copy by Rudyard Kipling of
That's right. Swastikas on it. I have one too.
yeah, a 1905 book of his, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like you would just like you can just imagine so many people today would like absolutely lose it. Like they'd have no concept that symbol existed before the Nazis. Like they
I
just don't
know.
even know it.
No, they don't. And if you you might mention to them, for example, if anyone ever checks you on that, and you might say something like, "Even the Navajos have it."
So I didn't know
They do.
that.
Oh
Huh.
yeah, oh yeah.
So
I mean, it's found all over.
those types of things really intrigue me, including what you were talking about being like born male and female,
Mhm.
and about being born human. It's like a piece of it's like it's a blaring sign to our consciousness that there's a lot more to the world than the surface levels could allow, right?
Yes.
And it just invites you into to deeper study into these things. And I think one of the tragedies of our time is that so many people reject that invitation and just stay on the surface.
That's right. And it's an unfortunate thing because you lose access to so much if you reject the mythical world,
Hmm.
as I sometimes call it. I mean, I call it that because myth typifies often how these archetypal processes function and work, and we are losing a great deal. The world is not just the surface. It isn't just, we live here and then we die and that's the end of it. I mean, I don't know whether there's anything more beyond our lives, but I think there may be, because there are too many unexplained things about how our psychology works.
Hmm. So I'd love to talk another 3 hours about that, but a thought comes to my mind. Do you think that or what about this thought, that the emphasis on the woke themes of the day is a deliberate attempt to rewrite the architectures, the archetypes that people resonate with, that they're trying to actually supplant and replace what for thousands of years made people resonate, made them like really move on the inside with an entirely different set of archetypes. What do you think about that idea?
Well, I think there's some truth to that, because what modernism has done is to reject anything that is old. I mean, think about it. Everything we knew, everything we believed in, everything that was obvious, everything that was common sense, we are told to reject now.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that. Rejecting common sense is one of the strangest things you can think of,
Yeah.
because common sense is based upon experience. I mean, for example, I was just watching a video, and it showed a 5'4" female cop trying to arrest a man who was, my height, probably 6'4".
I'm afraid
I
to know
mean,
where this is going to go.
yeah, I know. I mean, you could tell. He leveled her with one blow.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? Do we really think that a little woman like that can handle criminals?
Yeah.
Common sense tells you no,
Right.
but we've given up on common sense.
Yeah. So there's an aspect of that like I think it goes even beyond common sense. It's a question of whether or not one is willing to align with reality. So
Yeah,
for
well,
just my own personal anecdote on that is 25 years ago, not being selected to be a firefighter, and I was told I made it very, very far in the
mhm.
process, and out of thousands of people, like 5,000 people, I made it to like 150, and I was told afterwards by someone involved that had I had a different skin color or a different genitalia, I would have been probably accepted. And I don't care about the skin color part of it that much, but as far
I
as the
know,
genitalia goes, if I'm in a burning building and
I know.
I'm like comatose in my bed because of smoke inhalation, and my life depends on someone picking me up over their shoulders and taking me out the window. I want someone who can physically do the job. Period.
Exactly.
Just that there's no other question about that. And if there are, I know that there are women that can do that. I know that, but
Very few.
yeah, but not
I mean,
enough to take over the whole fire department
very few.
service.
I mean, I've never. I mean, people tell me there are such women, and maybe they are. All I know is I've never met one.
Well, I live in farm country. I've seen some pretty tough women. But I'm that doesn't change the fact that
Yeah,
as a rule, though, like those are the exceptions. What I'm talking about, as a rule, you want a big strong man or I'm sorry,
That's right.
pardon the redundancy. You want a man
I
coming through
know.
that window to save you, and it's not a denigration on the woman. It's just a recognition that as far as musculature goes, only one of those people is going to be able to save your life.
Well,
That's just the
we
reality.
we are seeing the reality of, well, rather we are seeing the absurdity of so much modern thought in the current furor over males in female sports.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yep.
And this is why I said modern times wants to reject anything old, anything that has always been the way, that we've always done it that way. This we are to reject.
Yeah.
And I don't see why, because there's a reason why people did things as they did. And it's not just because it was there, it was usually because it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there is a reason why, and it's because there are people who are intentionally trying to re-engineer society.
Yeah. Oh, there's
Um,
no question in my mind about that. I mean, I lived amongst hundreds of them as an academic.
yeah.
They
So
they want the world change.
right. So do you realize that we went from a conversation about AI and audiobooks to possibly being permanently blacklisted from YouTube?
Well, you can always cut the end off this thing, and
That's yeah, I don't know. I suppose I'd have to. Well, there's always a home for me on Rumble, I guess.
well, I'm sure Rumble will take you. But if you need to cut off this conversation, feel free.
No,
I don't
no.
mind.
No, I don't mind either. Yeah. No, and there is a link to the Rumble channel in the description. I just haven't taken the trouble to transfer all the videos over. I don't know if you know this, but it used to be the case that if you could syndicate your YouTube videos, you could make it so that automatically when you uploaded to YouTube, it would upload to Rumble. In the
Not
last
anymore,
year,
sure.
yeah, in the last year or so that's been severed. So now I'd actually have to download the video and then re-upload it, which, you know, when you're
It's a
uploading
pain in the
a
butt.
90-minute video file,
It can take a while.
yeah, anyway. So I feel like we've kind of wandered into an area that is still worth talking about. It's because I know you mentioned earlier you were born and raised in South Africa, and we
I
know
was,
stuff
yeah.
is going on there. We should maybe talk about that. But before we do, I mean, is there anything you want to say to like cap off the AI side of it? I mean, this would be a time to tell people to go out and buy your audiobook and where to get it and that
Well,
kind of thing.
definitely you should go out and buy it, because it is one of the most wonderful books the world has ever known.
There you go. Yeah. Well said. Well said.
But actually, I think it's a pretty damn good book.
It is good.
And if you're interested in historical fiction, it's also pretty good. But one of the things people have said to me is that I clearly did so much research because the details are also accurate. And
Mhm.
I'm proud of that fact because I think they are.
Yeah.
So if you want to find out what it was really like to live in Roman times, you can do so. You'll see people doing things they would have done.
Right. Yeah. So to touch on that, like the we're so used to, for better or for worse, whether you like it or not, it's the Judeo-Christian Western civilization mindset. The backdrop of our culture is all Christian, right? But that was
Right.
not the case during 3rd century Britannia.
No.
The backdrop was an entirely different kind of thing, and you really captured the flavor of an entirely different backdrop of the world.
Well, that was my attempt. Of course, something we need to remember is that Greco-Roman culture is certainly still part of our culture too.
Sure.
It's just got this overlay of Christianity on top of it now. But because of Christianity, many things that were normal in Greco-Roman times had to be rejected because they didn't fit anymore.
Yeah.
So that's what you see, I hope, in my book. Things that don't fit. Like, for example, the casual acceptance of slavery, no problem. The casual acceptance of getting rid of children if you don't want them.
Right. Yeah.
Things like that, we couldn't tolerate anymore.
Right.
So, and
Well,
the
we don't tolerate them on paper, but there's still some
well, we
tacit
still do
approval.
it. We just call it abortion nowadays.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, I wanted to ask you about the South African stuff because there's things happening there. But so the book is Gemini.
Mhm.
Anthony Rodrigues is the name on the book. That's what I've stuck to. I've not given out your other name. Hope that's the way you wanted it.
That's fine as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
There are a lot of people on Facebook who know my real name.
Okay.
That name I used on my book was my father's name. That's why I'm
Okay.
using it there.
Okay.
Because for some reason I've realized as I got older how much I respected the man who was my father. He was a Portuguese immigrant, by the way.
Interesting.
But he was one of the kindest people I've ever met in my born days. He was just a genuinely nice person. And I thought, I'm old now too, and I would like to show some respect for my father by using his name on my book.
Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. All right. And so the book is Gemini. You can get it on Amazon. If you want to maximize my profits, you'll get it on gutenbookpress.com. The audiobook is available through Spotify. Now, actually, I think that it's not just Spotify, right? It's like other places too, right?
Yes, it's also on Barnes and Noble. If you have a Nook, you can download it there.
Okay.
It's on 5 or 6 different platforms. All of them allow AI, unlike Audible. The
Right.
reason why I put it out through Spotify is another little interesting quirk to do with 11 Labs. 11 Labs, now, Spotify doesn't allow AI books on their platform.
Spotify doesn't.
Spotify doesn't, with one exception.
Okay.
The one exception is if you produce the book through 11 Labs.
Interesting.
You can upload it straight from 11 Labs to Spotify and they will accept it.
Why
So
on
there's
earth?
another, because 11 Labs and Spotify have a deal and I'm sure they're making money out of it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, the question answers itself, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's another reason to use 11 Labs because, to my knowledge, no other AI has this deal.
Now I feel like I need to make a disclaimer that we are in no way supported by 11 Labs. They have not reached out to us.
We're not.
Yeah.
We're not. In fact, I paid them a lot of money for what I did with them. So
Right.
I'm supporting them rather than the other way around.
So the links are in the description of the Spotify to buy the book on Gutenbook Press, and I think the link to buy on Amazon as well might be there for the print copies.
Right.
You can find us on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. So that's the wrap up.
If you want to find all the versions of books, Audible and paper, Barnes and Noble has them.
Okay. All right. Good to know.